Welcome to the Mad Love Your Life show. I'm Mary D, the Joy Catalyst, here to be your host and transformation guide. Mad Love is about the mad, making a difference, and love is what we serve up to live a delicious life. My intention is to help you spark new ideas, break limiting beliefs, and align with your deepest dreams and desires. Get ready for laughter, inspiration, and finding your inner roar in every show. Hello, everyone. I hope that you have been having a beautiful week. And regardless of what you hear out there in the world that might be getting you down, I hope that you will listen to the show today and find some things that will lift you up. I was actually listening to one of my friends give me a recap on life and a current storm that she's been going through. She's going through divorce. She's got kids. She's about to have to put her house on the market. And it's the house where the kids grew up. So she's got a lot of, memories tied up there. And then I heard her energy shift into this beautiful place when she started describing to me how much gratitude she was also sitting with around the fact that it's been a great home that has given her memories with her kids, and that she's also welcoming a new chapter. But the fact that she got to sit out there on the land and just appreciate what has been, knowing that things are going to change, was a really beautiful way for her to find the silver lining. So if you're going through any rough patches, then I hope that you'll be looking for those silver linings. They're usually best found when we're being grateful, and they are the thoughts that can help you make a shift. My special guest today, her name is Tamar Hermes, and she is the founder of Wealth Building Concierge. It is an initiative dedicated to empowering ambitious women to build wealth through savvy real estate investments and strategic financial planning. Her financial journey is a testament to her expertise, having built an 8-figure portfolio from the ground up and successfully supporting clients nationwide in achieving their financial goals. Tamar is currently focused on an ambitious $20 million modular home project in Austin, Texas, combining upscale living with affordability, setting a new standard in the real estate market. She is also the author of the bestseller, The Millionaire's Mentality. It is a professional woman's guide to building wealth through real estate. She's established herself as an authority on wealth building and real estate investment. Her insights and success stories earned her a spot on the pages of Entrepreneur, Fast Company, Austin Women's Magazine, and Bigger Pockets. Tamar currently lives in Austin with her husband of 22 years and is gearing up for a nomadic lifestyle later this year when she sends her youngest off to college. Oh, are you going to be empty nesting, Tamar? That is going to be, the question that I have for you as we kick things off today.
I actually love that question so much. Hi, Mary. Great to see
Hi,
you.
you
I'm so
too.
excited to be here. I'd love to talk about how I have renamed empty nesting to open nesting. Because
Ooh.
about the words that we say, we don't even think about it. Who came up with this concept of empty nesting? And it feels sad. It feels empty. And so, a friend, Lisa Sasevich, you probably know her, came
Yep.
up with this name of open nesting, and I've adopted it, and I actually love it. And so we are open nesting, and we are very excited.
Oh, that's great. Congratulations. And I want to hear more also about this nomadic lifestyle, because I feel like, you've got a partner you shared 22 years with, raised a child with, and now you're going to be open nesting. And is this one of those things where you guys have been planning for nomadic lifestyle, or is this like a wild hair? Like, talk to me about that.
Yeah, so I'd say it's a bit of a wild hair. I think it's the kind of thing where when the floodgates open and you realize you can do anything, we start dreaming and we start thinking about what we'd like to do. And the idea came up that we would spend different months in different places of the world. And what's interesting is that in the last in the last while, we do travel a lot anyway, but not for as extensive periods, is that I just love my home so much in Austin, and I love our community here, and I love our life. You've visited Austin
Yes.
and been with us, so you know that there's so many great people here, and so it's kind of hard to leave in a lot of ways. So I haven't really planned anything for next year. I'm kind of liking the idea of what it feels like to be spontaneous and just kind of
Mm.
decide in the morning. We don't get a lot of that time as children. We have that time, right? We wake up in the morning. What do? We play, we think of the things we want to do, and we dream and we imagine. Then all of a sudden it's the grind. You got to go to school, you got to go to work, you got to get the job, and then you're working the job, and then you have the kids and the whole
Yes.
thing. And it's like, when do we give ourselves that release? And so it's kind of fun to be in that space. And certainly, I mean, I have a lot of flexibility as an entrepreneur and real estate investor, although there is always the kids that create anchors and pets.
Yes, yes, I love that so much. So where's the first stop?
Great question. So the first stop is dropping my son Oz off at Elon University in North Carolina. And then my husband and I are going to our first Burning Man.
Oh, it's gonna be your first burn. That is really, really exciting. That is definitely a interesting way to kick things off, and I can't wait for you to have your first Burning Man experience. I can definitely say that it's a lot of visual stimulation. It's a lot of people that are just open and friendly, and the community itself is a lot of fun. So I'm excited for you. I can't wait to follow up with you after you've been to the burn. And I wish you all a very, very first wonderful burn. So that what a great way to kick things off. Thanks for sharing that. One of the things that we typically kick the show off with is asking our guest, what is something that you know now that you wish you had known before you ever got started? So let's take real estate, for example. Before you ever even touched that as a financial vehicle, where were you? What got you there? What brought you to that moment?
So first I want to say great minds think alike here, because actually the gift I'm going to give is the 20 things I wish I knew before I started investing in real estate. So we're on the same track. In terms of the one of the main things I wish I knew was just the the opportunities that were available to me. So when you grow up without
Mm.
resource and you grow up without parents that are explaining things to you, and maybe you're not seeing them in school, you don't really have a way. At least I should say, these days we do have a way. These days we live in a wonderful world. We just talk to Chat GPT for 5 minutes and you get the lowdown. When I grew up, there was not Chat GPT. So what I wish I would have known was how resourceful I am as a person, and
Mm.
I believe that every woman and every human is. And so I just never knew that I could invest in real estate. I didn't know how to invest in real estate. I didn't know how to make money. All of these questions were so daunting to me. And so it took me so much longer to get to where I wanted to be, because I didn't believe I could do it because I didn't have any reference point for it.
Got it. Got it. Yes, I understand that. And I think that's a lot of us. I know, my mother was a immigrant. She was the first person here from her family to ever set foot in the United States. And for her, it was about saving. Like, she had no idea about credit. She had no idea about how even home ownership worked in America. She didn't know that you'd get a ticket if you didn't mow your lawn. Like, there were all of these details that nobody gave her, that she wasn't empowered with. Because unfortunately, my dad, being an American, lived overseas for a long time, married her, raised kids with her, brought her to the US only to divorce her, unfortunately. And so she was really in this place of just not knowing and not having really anyone to ask. And I feel like, as a child of an immigrant, I spent a lot of time growing up quickly because I had to be the bridge. I was the one that spoke English, and I was the one getting the American education. And with that, learning how the world works and explaining to her some of the things that she didn't know. And with that, I love that she taught me about saving, but she couldn't really go any steps further than that because this wasn't ground she was familiar with. She was raised in a village where there were mango farms. We weren't coming to the US to start a mango farm. So it was such a different life. And I think that this is so many people's situation, whether their parents just don't talk about money or aren't thinking about teaching their kids about money, or they think, oh, I didn't do it that great. Let me not share the details here. Or whether it's just the where they come from and not knowing, like these days, yes, we can pick up a book. You're right, we can ask Chat GPT some questions, and there's a lot of people saying that they're experts, or there's a lot of people out in the world who will help people make money in X amount of time, et cetera, et cetera. But I know that I can say for myself, I'm grateful for learning early on from mentors about things like real estate. And that's definitely been one of the things in my portfolio over my lifetime that I can say has been the constant, consistent, positive return. And I think it's worth sharing. And I love that you have built a whole community around this and a whole business around making it your business to educate more people, empower more, especially women, to learn about this as a vehicle in terms of how it works and finances. So I first want to applaud you because that's magic in the world, and more of us need it, and we need to have a place to go where we can learn those things when they're just not available to us, or at least we don't know where to find them. And so I guess that's one of the first things I would also ask you, which is, you have your own children, and so, what has it looked like to also teach your children about some of these wealth vehicles? How is that, like, how do you start introducing it? How do you even make that part of the life, in terms of, because I think it will help other parents spark some ideas on how they can also start to talk to their kids about wealth and money if they're not already doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. The first thing that is so important is to actually make money a friendly dialogue in the household. So we hear all the stories about money's the root of all evil. I don't have it. I can't spend it. Don't, you'll never get it back. And all of that just ensues fear around us. And let's face it, money in our world is very closely aligned with survival. I mean, if we
Mhm.
don't have money, what's going to happen, right?
Right.
And and it's very scary, especially for a woman, to not know how to make money or not realize what she's capable of. So
Yeah.
there's a couple of key ingredients with our kids that I think are so important that have helped them have a healthy relationship with money. The first thing is self-confidence, is teaching the self-confidence, because if you don't believe you can, you won't. Napoleon Hill said it best, right? I mean,
Right.
it's not going to happen unless you have a good feeling about yourself and understand that if something is out of your reach, if you don't understand how to do something, that you have to believe that you can do it. And so we talk about money in our household, uh, about what it's like to get more of it, what it's like to sometimes lose it and have it be
Oh.
okay. We were going through, at this point, my youngest is 18 and my older one is 22, and then I have a stepdaughter that's 29. But the 22 and the 20 and the 18-year-old, we with along with my husband have financial meetings every week to look at the portfolio, to look at how things are balanced, and they ask some great questions. And the other day they were looking at in the portfolio. They said, "Mom, what's that red line?" "Oh, that's when Mom lost $75,000." What? You know? And but I'm sitting there just walking through it. Well, that's when Mom made $75,000. So part of it is also this attachment that we have to, like, money being finite and out of our reach. So we don't feel like we can move with it. We hear a lot, money is energy. And so we never talk that woo woo in the house, although we do have the spirit of, what does it take to earn money? What does it take to move money around? What does it take to take risk? How does it work? All of those questions I think are really important. You can start that at any age. My son, when he was very young, loved this game called the allowance game. And we used to play that all the time. And that's just a fun way to see how you can make money and how it works. And Monopoly is one of the greats. So there's a lot of ways to start introducing that.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Yeah, games I think are so important. I know my brother and his wife did a lot of took their kids to certain seminars to help them learn about money. They also did things like they had family tax. And so even though you earned money for certain things, there was still a family tax so that the kids could learn about taxes and how those work and why they're necessary. And the taxes were a contribution to, a family fund, which I thought was actually a really great way to break it down for them and teach it to them in a way that they could apply it to where they are, as children. So
It is
I
great.
like that. I really, really like that. That's really great. What would you say? I love what you were talking about around attachment to money because I think this is a lot of people's response is when they don't want to lose that they want the $75,000 positive line item, but they don't want to see it go negative. They're worried about the losses part of this. And you're right, there is a lovely fun kind of balance of like, well, you might have made 250 over here even if you lost 50 over here, and by the time it all washes out it's 200. But what do you say to those folks who are really really scared of risk? Because I know those people exist in the world. They would rather only make very calculated decisions. They can't fathom losing 75,000 even if it means that there's a $150,000 upside. So how do you help someone shift their mindset around this ebb and flow that happens with money?
Well, the idea that you will lose 75,000, we'll just use that number just because I made it as an example. That is not necessarily true when you are investing. So there are many ways in which you can invest and you can make very good money on your money in stocks, in real estate especially, and you don't have to take those kind of risks. Case in point is that I was very risk averse for a very long time. I wasn't married when I first bought my property, and I didn't know how I was going to support myself, but I knew I didn't want to pay rent. So what did I do? I went and I bought a duplex, one, so I had a tenant that could take care of some of the rents. And I bought it within my means of what I could afford based on the amount of money that I was making. I was earning pretty good money as an executive in television. And then over time, I didn't do much. I could have done a million strategies. I could have done what we call it is a 1031 exchange, where I buy it for a like property or greater, and I could move that money tax deferred. I could have refinanced it, which I did a couple of times, but I didn't take out as much money as I could have. So there's different strategies that we can use. But what I ended up doing was I just kept the property. I rented it out once I moved in with my husband, and I kept that property for 25 years. So that property that I bought for 400,000 is worth close to $2 million today. So I would just say, if you are risk averse, that's fine. Don't take big risks, but just be smart. Just think logically that there are strategies that can be used that aren't that risky. And you can really support yourself and create much more financial wealth and financial security, and live a life that feels more abundant financially.
So good. So good. I love that. We're going to talk more about wealth abundance. We're going to take a small little break. And when we come back, I have another question for you about this $20 million project that you're working on. We'll be right back.
Mike Zorek, a three-time California state champion in Greco-Roman wrestling at 114 pounds. Mike, blind since birth, was born in Hartford, Connecticut. He was a six-time national placer, including 2 seconds, 2/3, and 2/4. He also won the Veterans Folk-Style Wrestling twice at 152 pounds. In all these tournaments, he was the only blind competitor. Nancy Zorick, a creative spirit whose talents have taken her to the stage and into galleries and exhibitions in several states. Her father, a commercial artist who shared his instruments with his daughter and helped her fine-tune her natural abilities, influenced her decision to follow in his footsteps. Ms. Zorick has enjoyed a fruitful career doing what she loves. Listen Saturday mornings at 12 Eastern for the Nancy and Mike Show for heartwarming stories and interesting talk on the BBM Global Network.
Are you struggling to care for elderly parents or a spouse? Do you wonder if being a caregiver is making you sick? Are you worried about taking time off work to care for elderly parents and balance work, life, and caregiving? Has caregiving become exhausting and emotionally draining? Are you an aging adult who wants to remain independent, but you're not sure how? I'm Pamela D. Wilson. Join me for the Caring Generation radio show for caregivers and aging adults, Wednesday evenings, 6 Pacific, 7 Mountain, 8 Central, and 9 Eastern, where I answer these questions and share tips for managing stress, family relationships, health, well-being, and more. Podcasts and transcripts of The Caring Generation are on my website, PamelaDWilson.com, plus my caregiving library, online caregiver support programs, and programs for corporations interested in supporting working caregivers. Help, hope, and support for caregivers is here on The Caring Generation and PamelaDWilson.com.
Welcome back, everyone. Tamar, before the break, we were talking about how you can share some basics, or how you can start to share money with your children. We talked about open nesting instead of empty nesting, and we just talked about how we can also be smart about money, and if we are someone who is risk averse, how we can actually show up and take some baby steps, that we don't have to just dive right in with a large sense of risk. And what I'm curious about is, you have this really big project, a $20 million project happening there in Austin. I want to hear more about this. Tell me about the plan. Tell me about where it's at, and tell me if there's a way for other people to get involved with it.
Yeah, great. Yes. So I have a partner where we are building modular homes in Austin, Texas. And, like anything, it started out where let's try and build one, and then let's build a couple more. And then before we knew it, we kind of had figured out a strategy where we could put more homes on a lot and sell them for better margins. And so this project has, just like anything, it has growing pains. You start, you learn, you make some mistakes, you lose 75, you make 75, and now it is in its stage where we're going to start scaling it, because when you look at real estate, you're looking at housing needs, and you always want to look at population growth. Population growth is always one of the key factors in terms of where are we going to build, what are we going to buy, and Austin, as well as the nation, is in need of more housing. And as time goes, especially because the market is distressed right now in terms of buying. People aren't buying houses as quickly as they were. In a couple of years, we're really going to need those houses because the population is going to keep growing. So that is, so these houses get built in a factory. They still have finish out work. They are driven in and dropped into locations, and it's a very interesting project, and there's always opportunities for others to get involved. So if anyone, of course, has any questions, please feel free to reach out. If anyone's interested in projects and passive opportunities where deals are going and profits are being shared, then I'm happy to share.
Amazing. Amazing. And I would love to know what made you take it from, okay, I'm an investor and I understand the real estate game and how it works, to I'm going to actually become a teacher, and I'm going to invite other people in and show them how to do what I've been doing so that they can also use this as a wealth building vehicle. Like what made that shift for you?
I think at a certain point, it comes down to Stephen Covey, to live, to love, to learn, to matter. And I think I got closer to matter. And as you get
Mm,
closer to wanting to matter, you start thinking about how you can give back and what contribution you can make and how you can be in the world where you have a certain amount of knowledge that you can share. And I think from there, I really felt that it was a beautiful blessing to be able to share knowledge with other women and support them along the way and give them what I didn't know. So that was how it came about.
beautiful, beautiful. Yeah, I think this is a calling that most people feel in their lifetime, right? It's that sense of, what is my purpose? How do I live that out? How do I create some legacy? And I think it's a beautiful thing. For those of you that might be listening and you're like, "Oh wow, like I don't have that yet, or I don't know what my thing is." I want you to hear what's happening here today. So for example, Tamar was smart enough to use her money wisely in the beginning on saying, "Hey, I don't want to pay rent. I want to get a house." And then she ended up keeping the house, renting it out. It became a rental property for her. And so she was receiving this passive income. And from that small lesson in her life, she's able to show up on purpose and now teach these values and this value system to other people so that they can do the same thing, so that they can earn passive income. And so that, of course, uh, feeds her purpose in a big way. And it's those experiences that we have in life. And only when we share them, only when we learn to give those things away, when we learn to share the wisdom, when we learn to share the wealth, and tomorrow you're literally sharing the wealth. It's only in those moments that we will really feel that level of goodness and fulfillment. And so look around, spot those things in your life and see, where is it that you've got some wisdom to share. And I also realize that some of you may be out there and you might say, "Hey, I am just a mom." And if you say, "I'm just a mom," wow, being a mom is a big job. So, how can you show up and be a mom and maybe teach others principles around what you've been doing as a mom or what you do as a mom, and capture those for others? Be able to
Yeah,
share those things and feel good.
totally. I'd love to interject something on this because I absolutely love this topic. And if you're at a certain point in your life, you're going to have this moment of, did I live my fullest life? Am I living my fullest life? Is there something? Am I leaving something on the table? And I know this is to be true because I see it in my clients, I see it in myself, I see it in other friends, and very successful people and people that maybe aren't as financially successful but that feel that way. And one thing that I've really learned from doing this work is that the real value that you bring is in the everyday. It's in opening the door for a stranger. It's in leaving a nice tip for a waiter. It's The truth is, we're all valuable. It's just that we live in this world now that I think has kind of screamed at us, that with social media and with the way that we see the self-help world, that we need to do something or be something to be valuable, to be someone, to be worthy, to feel like we're living the life that is worth everything. And
Right.
what I've really had to do is stop myself down to say, look, even if you did nothing, even if you had nothing, as long as your heart is pure, as long as you're a good person, as long as you're living each day with gratitude and love, that I know, Mary, you talk about so much, that is just at the crux of everything. I think it's
Yeah.
really important to remember that, like, everything's there for you, and that it's really just a matter of stepping out and trying something and maybe losing 75K.
Yes, yes, absolutely. I will say that the losses I've experienced, I've been really fortunate in real estate. I actually have not had any losses, knock on wood. So that's felt really good. But in other things, I've definitely had some losses.
Mhm.
And that's where I say,
Absolutely.
"Oh man, like so many lessons that are tied up in those losses." And also understanding that when we are, playing a bigger game sometimes and deciding even, stocks, there's a risk. There's a risk we're going to take when it comes to stocks. In
Hmm.
business, there's risks
Yeah,
that we're going to take. Sometimes those losses
absolutely.
have been in, where you make a decision to put your money. And all of us would love to have, invested in Google in the beginning or in Apple in the very beginning. And sometimes we invest in something that we think is going to be a Google or an Apple, and it ends up being nothing. And
Exactly.
so,
We've been there. We've been in that movie.
yeah,
Although, the more and more that I am involved in investing, one of the things that I learned is that over time, if you believe in an area for real estate, if you believe in a product for a stock, it's going to do well over time. I mean, case in point, Tesla. I put money in Tesla. It was not the very beginning, but I still 10x to my money, and it's still going up. Now, if you looked at the market 2 months ago, you might have thought, oh my gosh, Tesla was down like 30%. And you might have thought, oh, Tesla's done for. But most of the people that study Tesla know that Tesla's a great company, that the vision of Tesla is great, that the opportunities in Tesla are great. And they put more money in at that time. And now it's back up. So, so over time, if you believe in what you're investing in, and certainly, Mary, it sounds like you also got yourself into some startups and opportunities that just sounded like, oh my gosh, we were going to be drinking margaritas on the beach. That just didn't happen.
yeah, yeah. I think that's is so interesting because it's the startups that I've been a part of actually have done relatively well, but it's the ability to stay in the market. So I think there's also a trend that I see with business where there can be high points and you take these startups and they really do well, and then they start to even out a little bit, and can they weather the storms of the market? And this is not any different than real estate and investing. It's understanding that things happen in cycles. And how do companies pivot? How do they learn to roll with the times? And even for what you said, like, I think it's amazing that you're doing all of this building in Austin with these modular homes with some foresight, knowing that, hey, we're going to need more homes. And I want to be one of those people who are building these homes, because even if people don't need them right in this moment, they're going to need them. And you have a little bit of a crystal ball, but it's built on your years of experience and understanding the market and understanding that things have an ebb and a flow. It's one of those things that when I'm working with entrepreneurs, I feel like is one of the big conversations, especially newer entrepreneurs, because they don't always necessarily understand that sometimes there is an ebb and a flow to things. That, look, for all of us, I wish that life started here and just was a nice trajectory up. That would be amazing if that's exactly how it worked all of the time. But that line doesn't always look, like a straight arrow to the top. It's actually a little wobbly and takes a lot of dips, and then it comes back up and it goes back down again and it goes back up. And it's being able to stay in the game and to know that you have a level of resiliency that can handle when things do take a dip, and an understanding and a vision for knowing that they can also go back up again, and finding the things that we love. If we do love a company like Tesla, how can we be encouraged to, like, stay in it? If we think that, green energy is where it's at, well, then maybe we're not even looking at Tesla, but we're looking at what does solar look like, or what does, wind energy look like? Like, there's so many ways that we can start to break down the things that we love and we're interested in. So I think that's a really important thing too, because so many times people can look at things and just play with numbers and see them only as numbers, and they forget to kind of love it and have fun with some things along the way. And I think that finding what you actually like and being able to invest time and money and energy in it is definitely part of being able to play this game of life and have some fun with it.
Are you saying this is about mad love?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That make a difference kind of love is where it's at for sure. Tamar, I want to talk about your quiz. You have this quiz. It's one of the gifts we're giving to the guests today. So for those of you that are interested in any of the projects Tamar's working on, if you're interested in her education, if you're interested in staying in touch, keeping tabs, all the things, look down in the show notes because all of her information is there. The quiz is there. But let's talk about the quiz because I think that this is a great, a great tool for people to use. Tell us, when we take the quiz, what is it going to reveal to us and what are we going to learn?
So it's the real estate personality quiz. And what it is going to do is it's going to help you understand that there is a myriad of opportunities in real estate. So it's not just, most of the time you hear, oh, I'll just Airbnb or I'll just buy a property and hold it. There's actually 13 ways that you can invest in real estate, probably more, but I usually just talk about 13. So in this quiz, what I do is we dial down, what are your interests? What do you like? What do you uh feel like your risk tolerance is? And then after all that, we can kind of deduce what type of real estate venture you should go into. And so it's kind of a great way to kind of narrow down your focus in terms of what you might want to do. And I will talk about in the quiz, there's 5 options, but there's so many more that I get into in the Women's Wealth Code.
I love that women's wealth code. I like that phrase. It sounds good. I think we
Right.
all want to know our woman's wealth code for sure. For sure. Talk to me, Tamar, because you are what I would consider a high achieving woman. And that I think that your life is a great example of what that can look like when someone has been able to come in and you've got success in your relationship, at least from longevity. I've heard stories of you and your husband. I had the pleasure of meeting him, and obviously children who are you know little lights for you, and then of course finances feel really good. What are some of the other practices that you have in your life that you've also learned to really hone in? Like, is there like physical, mental, emotional? Like, let's touch on all of those because I think it's also important for people to hear like what are the aspects of things, right? Because it's easy for people to go, oh, well, she figured out the money game so she can be happy and tootle through the world. And I'm like, here to also tell people just because you figured out the money game doesn't necessarily mean that life is all roses, because there's other facets of our life that show up. And so what are those things for you? What's something in that physical, emotional, mental realm that's really been a helper for you as as you be who you be?
I agree with this 100%. In fact, inside of the code, the D is discipline, wealth, mindset. And in the discipline, wealth, mindset, I talk about there's the plan of what you're going to do to create your wealth. And then there's who you're being inside the plan, which is what I'm going to talk about, which is all the things, because like you said, like it doesn't just fall from the sky. There's who you're being. And then the third is the execution. So the first thing is that my husband and I both, we cold plunge every morning in 41 degrees. So I actually cold plunge for 3 minutes and 33 seconds because, it's the angels. I can't take credit for it.
Yes,
Yannick or like I cold plunge with him one time. And then he was like, I do 333. And I thought, of course you do.
of course he does. Yes.
And I'm going to start doing 333. So that's what I do. And every morning I do it. And the reason why I bring that up first is because it is a symbol for how I start my day. Getting into a 41-degree cold plunge is not the most exciting thing that anyone would think, oh, I can't wait to start my day doing this. And I like the significance of we do hard things and we do uncomfortable things and we do things that are also very beneficial for us health wise that aren't easy. And so that's one of the things that I do. I exercise every day. I do yoga. I've been really into weight training now for the last probably 6 months because I realized that there is a reality to the fact that your muscles will atrophy if you don't lift weights, which was
Yes.
not really an exciting newsflash for me. I was like, I don't really want to know that. That's not a happy thing for me, because I personally did not love lifting weights. And just like everything, you once you start lifting them, you get used to it, and then all of a sudden you find some joy in it, and then you see the results of it. And so those are some health wise things that I do. I also spend time doing the breath work, doing meditation, tapping into places where I do feel scared or weak or need support.
Mm,
Still comes up, I mean, there's not only the maybe some residue from things in life that have happened along the way. There's
yeah.
also feelings that we have, that some days we don't feel that good, and some days things don't go our way, and things are not as easy as we think. And just because you have money, or you have a partner, or you have healthy kids, and there's so much to be grateful for, you're still living in the world, and you can feel sad about the pain of the world, and there's a lot of things that can come into play. So it takes a practice for sure to show up in that, in well, I call it the discipline wealth mindset piece of who I'm being inside of what I want to create.
Yes. Yes, and yes. I am definitely a fan of cold plunging. I remember growing up here in California, and one of the things I could not do growing up is get into the water, because the water in on this West Coast is so cold. It's just so cold, and it's a vast variation from, say, Florida water, where it's like bath water all the time. You could be in there all day. And it was always amazing to me to watch people come from, Michigan, and they'd have no problem in our winter getting into this really, really cold water. And I'd be like, oh no. And then I started cold plunging, and I noticed within a year that same, I was doing 39 to 42 degrees water. And as my body got used to what that felt like, I had a level of cold tolerance that I didn't have before. And that was really interesting to be at the beach. I remember I was doing a photo shoot, and we were down in the water. And as we got in the water, I actually ended up going fully into the water in my clothes, and we started laughing. But I was like, oh, I can do this. This is no problem, actually. And I was amazed at just how actually good the water felt. And I went, oh, look at that. Now I'm one of these people who can easily get into this water that doesn't feel as cold to me anymore. And it was just a part of that practice of letting my body get adjusted, breathing, learning how to breathe. Also, not telling myself that old story of the water's too cold, I can't get in, but instead being like, oh, actually, this water's just fine. And when you practice, y'all, this is the best part. When you practice getting into water that's 39 degrees, then the next time you go get into water that's 49 degrees, it feels great, because you have a tolerance for 39 degrees, and suddenly anything above that feels pretty good. It's not as, much of a jar to the system, and also so good, the benefits. So if any of you are not familiar, breath work obviously great for opening up your blood vessels, opening up your mind, and helping you really get centered and into your body. When you do that in combination with something like cold plunge, it's also a beautiful way for your body to, again, build up that resiliency, but more so, it's the resiliency in your mind. What you heard Tamar say is, hey, I can start my day by doing hard things. We can do hard things. And that is such a beautiful message. So much of us, we stop short of that exercising or that goal that we're trying to reach, because we just don't have that resiliency to take the next step to work through the hard thing. And something like a cold plunge is a beautiful way to do that, because you already know it's going to be difficult, right? Getting into that cold, icy water in the morning is probably not, as Tamar said, the most fun, extreme thing you can start your day with. It's actually a pretty hard thing, but mind over matter. She gets in and does it anyway. And that is such a good testament and story to life of how we know things ahead of us might be hard. You could be in the middle of something hard right now, but what happens if we just pull up our bootstraps and we do it anyway. Or in this case, put on our bathing suit and do it anyway. Get into that cold water, sit with it, find that spiritual number. If it's 333 for you, then that works too. And then come out of it knowing that you just did the thing. And now you're on the other side of it, and it's so good for you. It's so good for your body, so good for your mind, and definitely will be something I think that you will miss just a little bit out there on the playa when you guys head to Burning Man tomorrow. Although there might be a camp cold plunge somewhere, and so maybe you'll find that one and enjoy it.
My understanding about the playa is that if you start thinking about something that you want, that it kind of magically manifests itself, which
Oh,
that's what I've
yes.
hear over and over. So I
Yes.
don't know. It'd be interesting if we start really thinking about wanting a cold plunge and we find one.
I love it. I love it.
It
Amazing.
might be
We're going to
very popular being in the desert to have a cold
Yeah,
plunge.
absolutely. Absolutely it is. All right, y'all, we're going to take another quick break and we'll be right back.
Dr. RC will share extraordinary resources and services that promote educational success, as well as making a difference in the lives of all social workers, as well as the lives of children, adolescents, and teens of today. She will have open discussions addressing many of the issues that we face about our youth and how being employed in the uniquely skilled profession of social work for over 18 years has taught invaluable lessons through her personal experiences. She will also provide real-life facts, examples, and personal stories that will confirm that why serving as a child advocate is extremely beneficial when addressing the needs of the whole child. Listen live to Dare to Soar, Saturdays, 10 a.m. Eastern on the BBM Global Network, and tune in radio as Dr. RC will provide thought-provoking information that will empower, encourage, and strengthen students, families, and communities across our nation. You can also visit her at soarwithkatie.com. Author, radio show host, and coach John M. Hawkins reveals strategies to help gain perspective, build confidence, find clarity, achieve goals. John M. Hawkins' new book, Coached to Greatness, Unlock Your Full Potential with Limitless Growth, published by iUniverse. Hawkins reveals strategies to help readers accomplish more. He believes the book can coach them to greatness. Hawkins says that the best athletes get to the top of their sport with the help of coaches, mentors, and others. He shares guidance that helps readers reflect on what motivates them, rediscover and assess their core values, philosophies, and competencies, find settings that allow them to be the most productive, and track their progress towards accomplishing goals. Listen to John Hawkins' My Strategy, Saturdays, 1 p.m. Eastern on the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio.
Tamar, one of the other things that I want to ask you is, what is a superpower that you had as a child naturally that you didn't know or recognize was a superpower until later in life? Like you figured it out later. You're like, wow, this is like who I am. And I didn't know this, that as a kid, like this thing, maybe it got in the way, maybe it didn't, but it's your superpower. What is that thing?
It is my ability to connect with people. And I remember in high school, I won most talkative, and was actually very hurtful because I thought, oh, it wasn't like right now I'd be like the star, right? Today, if you could talk, it's great. But back
Right.
then, it was like most talkative. It didn't sound like a compliment. And what
Mm,
I realized was it really was just my interest in people and my love for others. And once I really embraced that, those connections have really helped me so much in business and in life and just in joy. So that's definitely what it is. And a lot of people will say, "Oh, you know everybody. You're such a great connector." And I never, I'm not one of those people that'll say I'm a super connector, but I do know a lot of people. I don't know when people boast about it. I'm a super
yes.
connector.
You're a super connector. You are. You are a super connector. And I think part of that is also just being friendly, right? And so that's just part of it, and that ability to be able to be a little outgoing and talk to people is it is a gift for sure. Yes, I agree with you. I definitely had that one as a kid as well, and I think it's served me well in life. And definitely don't feel like I'm ever talking to a stranger. It's always, how can I be just be who I am with everyone? And I think if we all grew up in a smaller community, then easier to do because there are people we see all the time or familiar with. Whereas
Mhm.
in this wide world where we're off traveling or seeing things, sometimes it could feel, maybe a little overwhelming. And so, for those of you that have any fears around that, just know it's just practice. It's just practice. You can get out there and become a super connector as well, or at least know one. That's what I said. If you're not one, know one. That's all that counts. So Tamara, how do you spot these trends in the market? Because I think there's something to be said for that. As we're talking about this big project that you've got a lot riding on, and also your foresight into this vision. Like, how do you hold that vision and help other people see it too?
I like that. I would say the first answer is that because my skill is connecting, I don't necessarily spot visions in as much as I spot people with visions. So the
Mm.
idea of the modular home came from my partner. I didn't really come up with it, but I was smart enough to jump on the bandwagon and to dive in deep. And how I help others find what their what what their strategy would be is by listening and by taking them through process where they can start to see, you know what, I really like design, I really like to um talk to people. Oh, so you might like an Airbnb because that involves talking to people and design. So, there are
Mm.
certain things where, and then there are certain strategies where oh, I don't really want to talk to somebody. I just want to have the rent. So then, okay, then you would maybe be better with this strategy. Or, I won't have anything to do with that. I just want money to come into my account. Okay, then you need complete passive deals, which means that
Mm.
somebody else is running the deal, and if everything goes right, you get money in your account.
Yes, so good, so good. And with the deals that you do you have with your groups, are people typically working for passive for that passive magic, or are a lot of them actually trying to get in there and learn how to do it themselves?
Some of them want to do projects by themselves, and some people just maybe they don't want to do it by themselves, but they want the control. So once
Mhm.
I do a deal with someone else, they're running the deal. I'm not in charge. If I want my money back, I likely can't get it until the deal closes or until it works its way through the project plan. Whereas if it's my project, if I buy a building and I want to sell the building, or I want to get rid of a tenant, or whatever choices, I have that ability to do it. So I think that there is something to be said for how close you want to stay to your investments and your money, because my properties that I own by myself with my husband, those are ours. Like, I can just, the one that I talked about that I at the beginning of the show, I can go sell that tomorrow. I don't have to, I have to just tell my husband and have a conversation with him. But other than that, that's it. Whereas if I'm in a deal, it's very different, or if I have partners, it's different. So
Mm.
I think that that the nice thing with passive is that if you have trusted partners, then you really don't need to do the work, and you can go about your business, and you have another stream of income coming in, which it sounds like, Mary, some of the deals that you've done. And certainly, I have a fair amount of that in my portfolio, and so do my clients. So it's
Mhm.
mixed.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely been a mix, and all of it, like I said, has been definitely the steady Eddie when I look through my own financial documents and I say, yeah, real estate has really been the win. It's been the long-term win that's done the best time over time. And my old partner never liked holding real estate. He liked to flip. And he flipped well, and there's just it's just goes to show you, like, there's so many different ways to play with real estate as one of those vehicles, and they're all pretty good. And obviously, I know there's clearly bad deals that exist in the world, and there's a smart way to go about it, to look at the numbers and to be able to break it down, or to get together with really smart people. Like, again, everyone, the theme here is you don't have to be the person that knows all this. You just need to know someone who does. And so that is the benefit here. So if you don't want to have to know all the ins and outs of real estate, you're not interested in having to learn, any of the nuances and the ups and downs, well, then that's what you do. You get together with a group who says, hey, we're great at this, but where you can leverage your vehicle here is by adding money to it, and then we give you money back. And there's so many different ways to do it, and those returns can all look different. And I think that in this market, it will be interesting to see us make some shifts, and I have a feeling a lot of that will happen here probably post election, as election year is always a little funny.
Especially this year. This year's really pretty much the funniest, I think.
Yes, I would have to agree with you. I would definitely have to agree with you. So again, if you all want to get in touch with Tamar, our guest today, please check out the show notes. Pop down into comment section. You're going to see all of the ways that you can get the goods, that you can take the quiz, that you can connect. And Tamar, I want to thank you for being such an amazing guest. I'm looking forward to interviewing you over on the YouTube channel for some exclusive content. And with that, everyone, that is today's live show. If you want more, then head over to the Mad Love Your Life show on YouTube. You can also head over to maryd.com and grab more information there. Until next time, may abundance always walk beside you. May joy always go before you. And may love always guide you on your path. Thank you for tuning in to today's show. We air live every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Bold Brave TV. We hope to see you back next week. For more ways to connect with my guests, content, programs, and retreats, just head over to www.maryd.com and subscribe. That's MARYDEE.com.